got a few readings, and then we'll get into it. All right. From the Hebrew Scriptures, this is several verses from Proverbs 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has sent out her servant girls. She calls from the highest places in the town, "Come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Lay aside immaturity and live and walk in the way of insight. Give instruction to the wise, and they will become wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will gain in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." From A Course in Miracles, chapter 1. Revelation induces complete but temporary suspension of doubt and fear. Miracles unite you directly with your holy siblings. Revelation is intensely personal and cannot be meaningfully translated. This is why any attempt to describe it in words is impossible. Revelation induces only experience. Miracles, on the other hand, induce action. Revelation is literally unspeakable because it is an experience of unspeakable love. Awe should be reserved for revelation, to which it is perfectly and correctly applicable. It is not appropriate for miracles because a state of awe is worshipful, implying that one of a lesser order stands before their creator. You are a perfect creation and should experience awe only in the presence of the creator of perfection. We'll get to that. Bookmark that. From the Buddhist monk Pema Chodron, if there's any possibility for enlightenment, it's right now, not at some future time. Now is the time. Now is the only time. How we relate to it creates the future. In other words, if we're going to be more cheerful in the future, it's because of our aspiration and exertion to be cheerful in the present. What we do accumulates. The future is the result of what we do right now. We can make ourselves miserable, or we can make ourselves strong. The amount of effort is the same. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I was terrified. The moment before I had been cautious, but now, in this moment, I was terrified. Several years ago, and you know when you say several years ago, and someone reminds you, oh no, that was like 10 years ago. So really, 10 years ago, I was out walking my dogs in the neighborhood where I lived. It was a nice, quiet subdivision, and my neighbor, this is why I was cautious, my neighbor had just come by and said that his dog was loose. Now you have to understand, this was an older man, and he had a younger, very energetic, big dog that was obviously too much for him to handle. And the dog had slipped its leash. It had gone gallivanting around the hood. Who knew? Who knows? Who knows where this dog is at this point and when he might show up again. But as we spoke, the dog reappeared in the middle of the road and saw me and my 2 dogs standing next to his owner. And the dog charged at me. Now, the owner moved to try to get his dog, but did I mention he was a little older? He was not all that fast. And this young, energetic dog was quite fast and running full speed at me and my dogs. Now, a little background. This was about 10 years ago, so I had 2 of my dogs with me. They are no longer with me in body, sadly. But there was my German Shepherd. Her name was the Lord, because the Lord is my shepherd. Yes, I am cheesy like that. And my other dog named Jack. Jack was a pit bull St. Bernard mix who closely resembled a barrel with fur and blue eyes. I mean, he was just big, round, and wow, he could pull a sled. But neither dog enjoyed meeting other dogs, especially dogs that are charging at them in a very aggressive manner. So as the dog approached, I judged his progress as he got a little closer, and I always carry a walking stick, and this is why I wrapped my stick on the ground. This is thick walking stick, and I just wrapped it as hard as I could on the ground. I cracked the stick. That is how much force I came down with. But that was enough, because it made the dog veer off to my right, which was where Jack was. And he was a very strong dog. And he decided that he wanted to chase this dog, right? So I am trying to get my arm not ripped off and bring him back in. But the distraction gave us enough time to make a run for the house, where I spent the next hour lying down trying to get my heart rate and my blood pressure back under control. And my shoulder back in the socket, right? Back in 2010, though, I had another terrifying experience, but this one was a little bit different. I'd been talking for many months about starting a spiritual community in Columbia called Jubilee Circle, and it was patterned after the Jubilee in Asheville, North Carolina. And I'd been hemming and hawing and making excuses, and one of my main supporters at the time just looked at me and she said, "What's stopping you?" Well, fear, for one. But this was a different kind of fear than that moment when there was a dog charging at me. Instead of like fearing for my life, this fear kind of excited me. It was a fear that invited me to expand, not just my own heart, but the hearts of those around me who wanted to have this community experience. So I had a lot of fears about this endeavor. I mean, there was the fear of failure. There was a fear of nobody supporting me. There was a fear that I would fall on my face as a leader. My biggest fear, though, felt like a sense of awe, because I felt like I was being handed an opportunity to create something bigger than myself that could serve other people. It was humbling to think that God might want to use me in that sort of an endeavor. These are examples of the two meanings of the word fear that appear in the Hebrew Scriptures. And each is fearful because it involves some uncertainty. So there is, and I have been, my pronunciation of these words has been corrected by one Jewish person that I met, but I am not going to say these correctly, because the first one is pakad, and it requires the and I cannot do that. So we're just going to go with pashad. How about that? So the first word is pashad. This is the terror that we feel when we find ourselves in a fight or flight situation. And this is a good fear, evolutionarily speaking, because it keeps you from becoming a tiger's lunch or being attacked by a charging dog. Generally, the uncertainty you fear is what you imagine might happen to you in the future, even if it's in the immediate future. And you're worried about like personal safety. The second form of fear is ira. It's Y-I-R-A-H, but it's pronounced yaira. And this is the uncertainty we feel when we step into a consciousness or an energy that is unfamiliar to us. And it's scary. It's scary mainly because it feels expansive. It feels like there are new opportunities for us. And it's also the feeling we get when we encounter the divine. This fear or awe of the Lord that our reading in Proverbs says is the beginning of wisdom and the knowledge of the Holy One. This is the fear, if we're willing to walk into it, that will bring us new insights, new opportunities for growth. So both of these fears have a lot in common. They both bring up some adrenaline, makes us hyper aware of the present moment, pulls us out of our comfort zone. Pashad, though, according to the author and coach Tara Moore, she says it makes our bodies tense. This fight or flight kind of fear, it brings a sense of contraction because we're usually trying to physically protect ourselves in some way. Yaira, though, brings more of a spacious, fluid feeling to the body, she writes. And this is a feeling that infinite possibilities, new insights, and wisdom are becoming available to us if we will step through our fear and take action. Pashad, she says, feels like it will wound us, either at a physical or an egoic level. But Yaira is a fear that gives us the potential to transcend the ego, despite the uncertainty that we might fear. The fear we feel in Yaira is the ego's terror at its own disappearance, because we are stepping into our true, higher, divine self. And we're allowing the universe to guide us. So if you're feeling a little fearful this morning, I invite you to think about which realm of uncertainty are you living in. Are you in Pashad? Are you worrying about the future? Or are you in Yaira, a fear that calls you to step into the future, knowing that it can help you grow and expand your spirit, so ultimately you become fearless? Breathe deeply. There's a story told of two waves drifting on the ocean. One wave is larger than the other. And the big wave starts to get scared and upset. And the smaller wave wants to know why. And the big wave says, you don't want to know. It's too terrible. If you knew, you would never be happy. And so the smaller wave persists. And finally the larger one says, look, I can see that not far from here, all of the waves are crashing onto the shore. We are going to disappear. The smaller wave considered this and finally says, I can make you happy with just 6 words if you're willing to listen carefully. And the bigger wave doesn't believe him and mocks him. 6 words, little shrimp, you're going to tell me 6 words. What? But finally, the curiosity gets to the big wave. He says, fine, what are those 6 words? And the smaller wave says, you're not a wave, you're water. You're not a wave. You're water. These 6 words are the perspective that Yaira in particular seeks to offer us. The awareness that we are not these bodies. We're not these egos. We're not anything the outside world perceives us to be. We are infinite spirits having a finite experience that seeks to teach us how to remember who we truly are. We are not the wave, we are the water. We are the light of the world. This was a revelation to the larger wave, but also for the smaller wave who had already achieved the wisdom of knowing what she truly was. Water, not a wave. We're all like that bigger wave. I mean, we believe not only there are not 6, but there are not 6 million words that are going to make us happy and bring us back to that fearless place of inner peace. We're not told what the bigger wave's reaction was to this revelation, but I'm betting that it was something that wave couldn't put into words, even if it could speak, because it was in the midst of experiencing awe. Revelation, our reading from A Course in Miracles says, induces complete but temporary suspension of doubt and fear. Miracles unite you directly with your holy siblings. In that moment, when the wave finally knew it was water, its sense of separation ended. It was instantly united directly with all the other waves in the ocean, knowing it was all made up of the same stuff, just in different waves it perceived to be around it. There was no more uncertainty, no more fear. There was only the wisdom in knowing that the shore could not destroy his essence because he was water. He wasn't the wave. How many times have we been caught up in our own fear, in our own uncertainty, that we could not see those around us, just waiting to offer a few words that might give us a miracle, a sense of awe, that chance to become fearless right here, waiting to be recognized and embraced, but we cling to our fear, whether it's Pashad or Yaira. But we refuse to be moved because it's the ego that keeps you stuck, because it's afraid that your Pashad will wound it and your Yaira will obliterate it, because you will discover the truth that you are water. You are not the wave. You are not your ego. You are an infinite spirit inhabiting a finite body for one reason only: to realize that your function in this world is to be a channel for light and love and joy and peace. And you can only do that if you release the fight or flight fear of Pashad and step boldly into that delicious and expansive Yaira kind of fear. What you do once you embrace this revelation, that wisdom of Yaira, Well, the Course says you can't describe it. All revelation is intensely personal. And whenever we try to talk about it, its essence is often lost in translation. People look at us like we've lost our minds. What are you talking about? No, the next thing you do after feeling Yaira, when you feel called to step into that expansive spirit, is not to talk about it, it's to do it. Take action. Embrace your function. As the light of this world, we show forth the wisdom of our revelation by stepping into that higher divine self, living fully in that place, transcending the ego's penchant for fear and hatred and competition and grievance. Wisdom, the proverb says, has built her house, and we are all invited to the party. To lay aside our immaturity, which is the ego self, and walk fearlessly into the way of insight, knowing that we are the water and not the wave. Breathe deeply. Now, while Pashad might be our fear of what we imagine is going to happen next, and Yaira may be the fear of stepping into the invitation into our higher divine self, I believe there's a moment in both of these fears where the transformation from fear into love is available. Now, as I reflect back to these fearful events, their common denominator for me was that both of them put me fully in the present moment. And this is when miracles can occur, when love can break through that fear and bring about what the Course says is complete but temporary suspension of doubt and fear. Even in the midst of both kinds of fears, there was a part of me that was not afraid. And that was the higher divine self, that infinite spirit that knows nothing about fear. In my Pashad moment, I was so focused on that charging dog, I didn't know what my own dogs had been up to. I had no idea. So when the dog veered away and I finally got Jack back under control, I looked down and I realized that the entire time the Lord had been circling me. And so I was wrapped up. My legs were wrapped up in the leash. And so I had to take time to unwrap the leash. But, the Lord was protecting me. I mean, quite literally, I had a dog going around me, ready when that other dog got there. So I had to unwrap and then run. I had been angry at my neighbor for not controlling his dog. But in the aftermath, all I could feel was compassion for an older man who was obviously physically outmatched by a dog that he had committed to love and care for. All he wanted was the safety of all of us, just as I did. And that realization, it obliterated my sense of separation. In that Yaira moment, even though I was afraid, I had an overwhelming sense that I would not be alone, that I would be carried, that I would be supported by those who loved me and shared a vision of what Jubilee Circle could have become. And those feelings of love and support, they took me out of my individual fear, my feelings of separation, so I could feel part of a community. And even though Jubilee Circle has run its course, closing last year after about 14 years, it remains an example to me of how to face uncertainty and step with trust into that Yaira energy of expansion. Buddhist monk Pema Chodron writes in her book, When Things Fall Apart, that fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. Fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. The key to overcoming that fear and becoming the truth of who we are is to stay with that fear, not to shy away from it, and embrace the opportunity that it brings to be in the present moment where these miracles can take place and we can step into that place of awe and revelation. Both Chodron and the Proverbs agree now is the moment when wisdom appears, ready to feed us with a steady diet of insight. So how we live in this moment, Chodron says, sets the stage for our future. We can make ourselves miserable, she says, or we can make ourselves strong. The amount of effort is the same. And I'll tell you, these times right now feels a lot pashad, right? We're constantly feeling this push and pull of fight or flight. And we make ourselves miserable. Spirit, though, Spirit is constantly calling us out of that egoic pashad kind of fear into this expansive yaira, because the universe knows that if we remember who we are, that we are limitless, blessed children of God, we are the water, not the wave, that we have the potential to embody perfect love in the world. And when we act from that place, we will be part of the catalyst to cast out the pashad fear that the world is gripped in right now. Both pashad and yaira, they take the same amount of effort. But only one makes us stronger. So now is the time to step into our true power, because now is the only time we have. Now is the time to recognize love within the present moment, even if we're terrified, even if we're in the awe of the limitless potential that we are invited to realize. We are not the water. We are not the wave. We are the water. It's true. We're not the water either. It's all an illusion. And the only way, that actually is what the Course says. Everything I'm trying to put into words is bigger than anything I can say. I can't communicate this to you because you've got to experience it for yourself. And until you do, pashad is all you got. But yaira beckons all the time to remember. To remember, as Shodran says, that what we do accumulates. The future is the result of what we do right now. So I invite you to remember. Even in the feeble words that I have, you are water, you're not the wave. You are infinite in a finite body. And the reason for you to be here is to transform that fear, whether it's pashad or yaira, into love. And that's when no amount of uncertainty can deter you from stepping into your role as the light of the world. And when you do that, you become fearless. And so does the world. Oh yeah.